This is probably going to be one of the juiciest conversations we have ever had on She Talks Business. Allyson Byrd, welcome to the show.
What's up, my friend? You and I never cease to have a great time that's radically inspiring and full of laughter. So I'm excited to giggle with you.
I am just so excited to have you here. And I mean, we've been trying to do this for a while now. And so I'm glad we finally nailed down a date and time that worked for both of us, and that our listeners get to listen in, because I feel like you and I have had so many rich conversations over the years that are just so, I'm going to say, juicy and valuable on so many levels. And for us to be able to have a conversation here and let other people eavesdrop on what we're going to talk about, to me, is just really, really exciting, because I really don't know what we're going to talk about. And that is the fun part, right? That's the fun part. So thank you for saying yes to this conversation. And thank you for bringing books to the table, some of which I've never heard of before. And of course, in the spirit of Allyson, you couldn't just have 3, you had to have 4.
I'm the girl of more than enough. Like, I'm that personification of divine order. So it always happens that way. Abundance.
Abundance. So before we get into the details of the books, I want to start by asking you a question that I've asked everyone on this season, which is, tell me why you read. Because we live in a world today where people always tell me, oh, I wish I had time to read. I don't know where you find time. And of course, I always tell people the same thing. I don't find time, I make time. So tell me why you read, why reading is important to you. Like, help us understand.
Yeah, thanks for asking me that. Here's what I realized as I started to create success for myself. And I would say that that was as a teenager. I remember actually earlier than that. At 3 years old, I was successfully winning speech competitions. And what I recognized was that most people at a very young age, I could see, only knew what they knew. They only knew what the world had offered them. I remember being about 5 or 6 years old, sitting with my Sunday school teacher, and she was telling a Bible story, but she wasn't telling the scripture that came after the story that made all the difference. And I remember asking her, did you read the whole chapter? And she got angry, of course. Here was a child challenging her. I didn't know how to couch it in safety, right? I didn't know how to facilitate dialogue. I only knew how to point and say, you don't know what I know. And in that moment, what I recognized is, if I became a reader, then suddenly I had insight. I was interesting because my mind expanded. Now, as I started to create success for myself over the years and got into my 30s and in my 40s, those decades, I recognized that as success came to me, my ways of escape began to change. And reading is an act of discipline. It is a champion of self-care. It's saying, I matter so much to myself that my imagination is my highest space of, I want to use the word elixir. It's like where the goo of me is made. Mm-hmm. But instead, because I was getting so busy with my success, I wasn't prioritizing self-care anymore. So what happens when you don't prioritize self-care is escape. So pizza and Cheez-Its and Diet Coke became more accessible because
and watching the Kardashians instead of reading a good book.
Watching the Kardashians, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with anything in moderation, or I don't want to say anything. If you're harming someone or harming yourself, then let's make other choices. But as we're having a context of the human that is leading a quasi-balanced life, and seeking harmony. That's a good way to say it. Someone that's seeking harmony, it really does become easeful to take ways of escape that aren't also a path of discipline. So to me, if we are humans that are living the way of integrity, then reading is essential, because that is the power field, the vortex of our imagination, which then creates the world around us.
I love that. I always describe it as I feel like I'm masterminding with the author. It feels like there is a higher
Oh, I like
power.
that.
There's a higher power that combines what I know with what the author knows to create insights for me that I wouldn't have had I not been reading what I was reading. So when I read, I use and abuse my books. I write in them, I highlight them, I put post-it notes in them. I send pictures of them to people. Like, to me, I can't imagine not reading every single day. Like, my life wouldn't be as rich as it is without all of that knowledge.
You know what I love to do with books like that? First, I use and abuse my books as well. And then I take it and I gift it.
Oh,
Yeah, because when my mother, I did not always do this, but when my mother ascended, one of the most treasured items that I have from her are her journals and her Bible. And we say ascended in my family instead of died or passed away. And seeing her faith, seeing her highlight and the exclamations, around sacred text. Like, one of my favorite is Ephesians 3:20. It says that divine order will do exceeding abundant above all you could ask, imagine, or think when you are aligned with the highest power within you. And to see my mom's green Papermate highlighter on that, to see her circle around it, and look at this, to see her have written Nikki, which is my sister's name, Allyson, my name, Jordan, my niece's name, Isaiah, my nephew's name, to see all of that next to that scripture just gives me so much faith in this season of myself. So now I mark up a book, and when it's someone's birthday, I wrap it like it's brand new. And I say, this worked for me. This is what I manifested out of this book, whether it was a healed relationship with my body, a friend, my money. And I never get a more tearful response than when I do something sweet and soft like that.
wow. The thought of doing that just makes my stomach like uneasy, because not because I wouldn't love for somebody to read what I've written in the books if I cared about them, but I use my books for reference all the time. I pull them off the shelf and I go to specific pages and I reference them on a regular basis. So I love that idea. And there's a
And I replace it. I do replace it for myself if I feel like I want to replace it. And I don't mind letting those notes go, because my belief, and it's fair that we can hold separate beliefs, my belief is that it's ironed in me, it's embodied in me. And anything more than I'm meant to receive, I'm going to open the book and receive in that new chapter of who I be.
Interesting. I would encourage you at some point to pick up one of your books that you haven't passed on and read back through the book and read your notes again, because I bet you will see things through a completely different paradigm. It's almost like, grown up Allyson looking at Allyson, who wasn't as grown as you are today. And
Agreed.
when you see some of those things, like when I go through some of my old journals, it's always magical to me to see some of the things that I have written down through a different perspective, a different
Well, I think
lens.
what's magical to me, I don't give every book away. But what's magical to me is when I go back to a book and recognize, holy smokes, I'm dealing with a revolved version of what I was facing in that time. And to understand that sometimes we're living Groundhog's days because we're not remembering certain awakenings that we've had, and then applying that new consciousness to continually undoing the patterns and the programming that keep those actions and keep that same seeking, because we can keep picking up the books, seeking the same information, because we're not really esteeming within ourselves I really did get that
Mhm.
understanding and I can move on.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And in fact, I'm going to do something right now while I'm on this call with you. I am going to delete my Facebook app on my phone. See, I'm going to remove the app because what happened is exactly what you just said. So I don't know, probably a year ago, I picked up one of my old journals and I read this thing about feeling frustrated with, like, I was feeling a little unhappy, a little, not content, and feeling like I was spending way too much time on my phone, way too much time on Facebook. And I had written all this stuff and I read it literally 3 years after I wrote it. And I went, I'm doing the exact same thing right here, right now in this moment. So I deleted Facebook from my phone and it was off my phone for a good 6, 8 months. And then something happened. I changed my profile to the new, what is it, like creator profile on Facebook. And because I have so many followers, I was deemed a quote risk because I could have advertised or done something related to politics, which makes no sense to me because, like, I don't even talk about politics on social media. So I had to reinstall the Facebook app. I had to allow location tracking so they could verify my identity and my location. And all of that to say, they then said they couldn't verify who I was. So I literally changed back to regular, but I never took the app off my phone. And so hearing you talk about that just made me, remember why I took it off my phone. And I don't want to go back to that habit of cycling, constantly looking at it. Whereas if it's on my computer, I go to it when I want to go to it. When it's on my phone, it becomes a habit that I don't want.
Well, bravo for you, girlfriend. Bravo for you. Yeah, I took Facebook off years ago and I've never returned.
Yeah, I wasn't going to. The only reason I did was because of that stupid glitch, and then I ended up not taking it off. So thank you for the reminder. So talk to me a little bit about how you read your books for maximum impact. So you say you mark up your books. Do you have any other habits around reading that allow you to extract the most value from the books you read?
Okay, this is going to be very unique, I'm pretty certain, because this is not something that is trending very hot right now, but I believe in our new earth, we're going to see this quite often. And when I say our new earth, Eckhart Tolle wrote about this many years ago. Oprah Winfrey interviewed him a gazillion times about it, did a whole masterclass series. And so what is the new earth? It is this idea that we are awakened to our co-creative power. We are awakened to the idea. Oh, one of my fur babies is a little excited. Let me help them out. Okay. We are awakened to this idea that we can do more, be more, and create more through the lens of harmony in our lives. That really is what New Earth means. So as I started going through certain modalities of therapy, I was introduced to plant medicines, hyper specifically psilocybin. And a lot of people use just the term like mushrooms, but it's a plant based, you can take it as a tea,
Mhm.
and it changes your perception by opening up your pineal gland is one of the ways. There are many ways. I'm not a psilocybin expert. So anyone who's listening, please know I'm saying this through the lens of being guided, of being taught, of being trained. And my mastery is abundance. My mastery is amplification of your voice and power for entrepreneurial leaders. And my mastery is that you can live your life out loud in front of the world by working less and living bigger. So that's my mastery. As I was pursuing more of this mastery for myself, I was introduced to psilocybin. So it changes how you perceive and what you receive. So I like to take a microdose of psilocybin, a little bit of tea, take myself into meditation, and then open myself up to reading for 30 minutes to an hour. and then write down my thoughts, my feelings, my reflection on that. And the way that I like to write that, I've created a few sentence stems like, I desire to feel. After what I just read, what would I feel, fill in the blank that I desire to feel now that I read that? I desire to know. What is it that I want to know? What did it inspire me to pursue? I desire to let fill in the blank be easy. As a reflection of what I just read, what can become easier? And those three prompts make a difference at the embodiment of what I just read. It takes it from a cerebral level and it takes it into my actual organs, my flesh. And whether I'm on psilocybin or not, that is a practice. However, I wanted to sprinkle it in here because I knew it would be such a yummy insight for humans that have been introduced to it to feel seen, and for humans who have been on the fray of it to go, wait a minute, did she just say that? Maybe I'll give myself permission to try something like that on too.
Interesting. So I have never heard of that. I don't know what it is. And so the first thing that comes to mind for me is this is some crazy psychedelic. Is that what this is?
It is a psychedelic, but you can remove the word crazy in front of
Okay.
it.
Okay. So tell me
yeah.
about it, because you say microdose, and like I am a drug version, meaning like I have never smoked weed. I have never done anything like my drug of choice is a glass of wine. So I'm curious about this because I've never heard of it before, and you're bringing it up. So tell us what this is.
Yeah, so let's just use alcohol as an example, which I love a great wine. I just had the opportunity of going to Jordan Wines, which is a beautiful wine vineyard, and meeting their president and dining with him. And oh my God, one of my former clients who's become a great friend invited me, and it was pristine. And I tried every wine that they put on that table, every single one. So, however, wine is a depressant. So the moment that you drink it, you go low. There's no way to go up with wine. There's just no way. So your energy goes low, your thoughts go low, your psyche goes low right away. So you are thinking in a lower state, which means that's why you're more sensitive. You can cry, you can become angry. That kind of thing can happen when you're utilizing something that has a depressant to it. Okay. So psilocybin is different. It activates. So your pineal gland gives you the ability to perceive life through the lens of joy. Joy. So everything that you're perceiving is through joy, even if, and I'll give you an example. Recently, I read something that took me into understanding more of my judgment, why I judge, how I judge. And I grew up in a religious setting. It was a great spiritual foundation. However, it was very judgmental because it said, we believe this way. Anyone else believe differently. They're wrong. We're right. Try to recruit them to your side of belief. Well, that requires judgment. So I've been breaking that off of my life, breaking that off of my consciousness of communication. So here I was reading, and here I was on psilocybin microdose, and here I go into this shadowy aspect of Allyson that's judgmental and critical and compares. However, as I was doing it, I could see, oh, sweet girl, you were so harshly judged going to church every Sunday. Your mother made sure you had the right stockings, the socks with the lace, the perfect patent leather shoes, the braids. She said, sit down, be quiet, don't move, stand up when we stand up, clap when we clap, sing when we sing. Your individuality was gone. So now I wasn't so much, Allyson, stop judging others. Allyson, stop judging yourself, sweet girl. Be more of who you are. And that was a moment on the dark side of myself on psilocybin while reading, while reflecting. That's a good distinction.
Interesting. So I don't even know how to spell that word. I'm going to Google it when we are done. All right. I
And
don't
I
want to
would say,
derail our conversation on this, but
well, let me
it's
give a
fascinating.
tool. There's a great tool. Lisa Ling, who a lot of people know as a great reporter in North
Yes.
America, Asian American, Lisa Ling, she's brilliant. Her and her husband did a really great Netflix special. So if you want to get like an hour in of just understanding, he is, I believe, a neurosurgeon. I believe that's accurate. And so they did a great study on it. And it's a great way to lock in with ease and insight, because she gives multiple perspectives, not just the perspective of it's a good thing to do.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. Always something different coming from you, girl. Always. All right.
I feel
So,
the same about you, girl. You wake me up all the time. You wake me up to new perceptions. You wake me up to new insights. And you never, Lisa, never do you allow whatever rigidity of boundary that I've put in place on why something can't happen for me, you never allow it to stick. And that's one of the big reasons why I value and keep you close in my world.
thank you.
Yeah.
You're always so generous and kind with your words. I appreciate that. All right. I want to talk about your books because I literally thought when I read Hind's feet on high places, I'm like, oh, she must mean hind feet. So there must be a typo there. What book is this? I've never heard of this book before in my life. So let's talk about books. Let's talk about the 4 books that have had a significant impact on your life personally and or professionally. Tell us what they are and let's talk about each one.
Okay, great.
So we can start with that one. We don't have to start with that one. I was just using it as an example because usually when people send me their list of books, I am familiar with at least 2 or 3 of the books, or at least usually 1 or 2 on the list. And I'm familiar with 2 of yours, but 2 I've never heard of. And that one was interesting for me because I thought you made a typo and you didn't. So
I love this book. I read this book as a child and I read it again as a young adult. And it's by a brilliant woman who once walked this earth. Her name is Hannah Hurnard. And what I love about this book is it's an allegorical tale. So I love imagination, picturing things with animals. So I'm already activated. And the character's name is Much Afraid. And she lives in a village with her cousins. Fear, anger, resentment, betrayal, like that's kind of what her village is like. And she has this idea that she doesn't have to live as her name, Much Afraid. And she starts talking to her cousins and they're like, oh, I'm just going to stop being fear. Oh, I'm just going to stop being angry. Oh, and she's like, but what if something else could exist? And she decides to go out of her village on her own and find a new way. And that to me is so much of me. I grew up Black in America, post civil rights era. I was born in 1977 and I was raised in the 80s. There was a massive crack epidemic for the Black culture. My mother did everything in her power to ensure that we were not exposed to that life, to that way of being, to that choosing. And by doing that, in many ways, made us much afraid. In giving us those boundaries to keep us safe so that I would become this human that is impactful to society, that has influence positively and powerfully on society, and that makes an income for myself that allows me to live and lead in a great way and also leave legacy for those after me. So she was going for something great. However, in order to do that, she had to impose fear. So what I love about reading this book is if you're an avid reader, you can read it in 2 days. If you're a slower reader or have a unique neurodivergence when it comes to reading, you can really walk yourself through it over the course of several weeks. And everyone can relate to these characters everyone can relate to the uniqueness of her path, and everyone can relate to the transformation that she experiences on the other side, and then the joy that ends up coming to her village as a reflection of one human deciding to, or one energy deciding to embrace on this gorgeous hero's journey.
I can't wait to read it. I'm gonna buy it. I have it in my Amazon cart right now. And I have a naughty dog here who wants me to throw her Santa Claus. I don't know. I keep looking because she keeps making noises. I don't know if you can hear her or not.
I know both of our fur babies are activated. Can you hear mine?
No, and I have two over here sleeping, but the third one right here, she likes to play. This is Faith. Have you seen Faith?
I have, Faith. I was just looking at a video of Faith.
Yes.
She sent me a video and I was in our files and I was just looking so adorbs.
So I probably shouldn't have just thrown that, because now she'll come back a million times and want me to throw it again. But anyway, she won't let me pick her up right now because she wants to play. She is not
Faith.
much afraid.
She's not much afraid at
She's
all.
not much afraid.
Well, you named her Faith.
I named her Faith. That's right. Because I had to have faith that she was going to make it. Okay, Faith, that's enough. We can't have you squeaking the whole time I'm in here. So I'm going to take the toy away. I'm going to put it on my desk and we will play after. Now she's looking at me like, how dare you? I'm going to bark you up my toy. All right. Second book. Tell me about this. So actually, let's back up. I apologize. I got a little distracted by the dog because she was making noises and I couldn't tell if you could hear her or not. So this story about Much Afraid and your mom really resonates with me because it reminds me of my mom. And I think if I could give my mom a name, it probably would be Much Afraid. So I'm curious. So I always joke, and I say this to my mom as well, so I'm not talking about her behind her back, but I always say my mom is afraid of everything that might happen in life and everything that will likely never, ever happen in life. So how did this book help you to release the Allyson who was much afraid?
You know, I wrote this quote recently, and I think it sums it up. And I made it a practice now for my private clients to exchange the language. And what I wrote is that worry is the mastery of suffering in advance. And so if you give yourself permission when you feel worry, which is very natural in the three-dimensional realm. We are programmed by television, previously programmed by radio. We are programmed by teachers, leaders that condition us to worry. And so I've invited all of us to exchange the language that when we feel the energetics of worry in our mind, in our heart, in our soul, to simply just hold our bodies and say, I am suffering in advance about, and to say that thing out loud. It changes your experience of what you're choosing. So reading this book continues to help me no longer suffer in advance, to say you're afraid. Fear is false evidence that appears real. So what is it that you could imagine beyond what you're imagining right now? What else can you imagine? Who can help you align with that greater imagination? And if you ask yourself those two things, you pretty much always get out of fear and worry. And that's how this book has made a difference for me.
Interesting. You know, I remember a time in my 20s when I made a conscious decision not to worry about things that I couldn't change. And I think sometimes that can make me come across as not caring in a moment, because I really try my very best not to worry about things that I can't change. And if it's something that I can change, I don't need to worry about it because I can actually do something about it. And so choosing to take action instead of choosing to let the tapes go over and over in my head and worry about something is a space I had to get to in my life. And I think it's because my mom worried so much. So I'm anxious to read the book. I don't always correlate fear and worry the same way. And so I think that was a really interesting distinction, the way you brought them together, because I can see where I might be fearful of something, and that may be allowing worry to creep in. But because I'm calling it fear, I'm not seeing it as worry.
And if you just always consider, do I have an energy of suffering in advance?
Yes,
That's the most
exactly.
peaceful way. Isn't that a great way
Yeah.
to say that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. Okay. So talk to us about the second book.
Oh my goodness. So The Body Is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. I discovered Sonia Renee during the pandemic. I'd never read her before. And during the pandemic, can we say the pandemic on podcast? Does that change the whole dynamic?
I don't think so. I think you're
Okay.
good.
Okay, good. Okay. So during the pandemic, I got an opportunity to be introduced to a lot of Black content creators that I'd never seen before. And this woman is what we would call in the culture a banger, meaning she's just powerful. She is like a Lizzo of writing, if you will. She's so engaging. And what I love, I want to read this one part that she wrote in her book. She's got a picture of herself and she says, in this picture, I am 230 pounds. In this picture, I have stretch marks and an unfortunate decision in the shape of a melting Hershey kiss on my left thigh. I am smiling like a woman who knows you're watching me and you like it. For this one camera flash, I am unashamed and I am unapologetic. And so Sonia writes from the perspective of being a woman that is larger, or she uses the word big. She writes from the perspective of being a woman of color. She's a Black woman. She uses the word brown. And she writes from the perspective of being queer. And she says that she was not represented. And because she wasn't represented, she didn't feel worthy of visibility. And get this, she also didn't feel worthy of the desire to be visible. And so what I like about this is that she talks about the root, and I don't want this to scare anyone. I want this to inspire you, because the moment we mention slavery, suddenly anyone who's not Black feels disqualified from being in the know. And so this is just a great way to just read it with observation. You don't have to be a Christian to read the Bible, but it can still be very engaging reading, right? I mean, David just had the wildest life. I mean, it's better than a Netflix special. He was killing people and sleeping with their wives and making babies and they're dying. And I mean, it's all kinds of stuff going on in the Bible. It's humanity. So in this book, what she discusses is that because Black women were put on the block, if you will, during slavery and stood up naked and chosen naked and chosen for certain categories of life based on the body. So if their breasts weren't perky, if their tummy wasn't flat, if their thighs weren't tight, they were sent to the field. If their skin wasn't light, but if they were lighter skinned and beautiful and longer hair, or this reflection, let me say it, let me clean that up, this reflection of beauty that was normalized and approved, then they were allowed to be servants in the house. And so because white women knew that, then they began judging their bodies by the same thing. So it started this epidemic of consciousness around what's approvable societally and what is not. And it changed how we all give ourselves permission to not just perceive how we can be visible in the world, but what we even allow on the inside of ourselves. I think that the writing is witty. I think it's bold. I feel it as tenacious and challenging. And what I like about it is it pulls up my grit, because I live and lead in many ways a very comfortable existence. I have climbed that ladder to this level of success where I am. And I could very well sit at this place and just be like, I'm good. But I like that she brings this gritty perspective that says, are you good, or are you good through the lens that you've been living in. And if we wipe that lens with a little Windex, a new perspective, what more will you bring out of yourself? And that really awakened me.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Everything you say, I keep thinking of my mom. It makes me think about when I was getting ready to quit my job and become a full-time entrepreneur in 2006. And, my husband and I had decided I would leave my job first and we would open this retail store. And I still remember my mom, oh my God, child, are you sure you're doing the right thing? You make so much money. They treat you so well. Like, she was mortified that I would even consider walking away from all of that. And so that, when you said wipe the lens, it's like, her lens was what she could see I had accomplished was so much more than what she had accomplished in life. The thought that I would be so bold or audacious to even consider that there was something more, like, it was almost like, how dare you not, how dare you not be satisfied, child?
I feel that so hard.
Yeah.
And I want to say that for humans that are listening, if you're a human that perceives yourself to be generous, benevolent, altruistic in any way, pick up a book that says nothing about you. Nothing about your world, and just see something different. And that is an act of generosity to all of humanity, that your whole point of view for the world changes, because you will show up forever better. So if not this book, something that opens you up to a world different than the way you've been seeing it.
So I know that we are just outside. We're late for Black History Month, but one of the books that I picked up and read that I think really expanded my mind that way is The Warmth of Other Suns. Have you read that book?
I've never heard of it. No.
It's a huge, huge, huge book. And it is a fascinating book. And it is basically the story of there are four people. The author tells a story about four people and their journey from the South to new places where they could escape slavery and they could start their lives and lives for their family over again. So it really talks about the Great Migration. And these stories they're inspiring and they're heartbreaking. And what I love about what this author did is every chapter has a date in it. And so I said to Jennifer McClanahan, who has been on the podcast, she's the one who recommended this to me. I said, I read this and I can't believe this shit was happening 100 years ago. Like, people, when we hear people talk about slavery, it feels like, oh, that was in the olden days. That was so long ago. But 100 years ago, like, my grandmother would have been younger than I am right now. And so I agree with you. Reading things that educate us about different areas of life or different experiences that people have had that are different from our own is such a great way to change your perspective, to have more empathy and respect for other individuals and the paths that they've walked. Anyways, that is a book that I would highly, highly recommend our listeners consider reading.
Say the title again so we can hear it.
The Warmth of Other Suns.
The Warmth of Other Suns. Wow.
And we'll put it in the show notes along with your book recommendations. It is not an easy read, meaning this book is, I think probably 800 pages long, and it is a bigger book. So it's kind of like 2 pages on every page if it was just a regular kind of little paperback book. So you're not going to read this in a day. I read it over a several month period. It was the book that I would read before I went to bed at night, because I don't like to read business books before I go to bed at night. I like to read biographies and autobiographies and things like that at night, because I have less chance of being, kept awake all night with my mind thinking about business things. But this is a fantastic book.
Thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, it's really good. All right. Next book on your list.
Okay, so the next book on my list, there's a tie for this being a third book. Like, and I said to myself, which one would I prioritize? Should it be this one or should it be this one? I said, it has to be both. It just has to be both. So, book number one is 10X is Easier Than 2X, which is written by Dan Sullivan and shared with Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And I love their books that they've written together. They are just a brilliant duo. I am actually right now in a call-in manifestation desire for my Dr. Benjamin Hardy, because he just does an exquisite job of taking Dan Sullivan's thoughts and precepts and concepts and putting them in book format so that we can all receive them.
You're calling in your who.
I'm calling in my who.
Who, not
Yes.
how. The first book they wrote together. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the answer to who does not always have to be you. And
Right.
when I saw the template with their partnership, that was actually a takeaway for me in reading their books as much as reading their books. Now, this is an advanced copy that I'm reading. And I really wanted it. Talk about call-in game. And then a friend of mine invited me to see their new home, and on their desk was the advanced copy. And I said, oh, I wanted this book. And they said, oh, take it. They were like, it's yours, just for you. And I was just beyond elated. So why do I suggest reading this book? First of all, anything Dan Sullivan to me is brilliant. Are you a Dan Sullivan fan?
I've read 2 of Dan's books with Ben on in Thought Readers. I have interviewed Dan twice because I was told that there was no way I would get to him. And so I had to prove that I'm a little scrappy and I got a little grit myself. So I've had 2 conversations with Dan, and I actually just joined Strategic Coach this year.
Oh, wow. We have to talk about that offline.
Yeah.
We have to talk about that. What I love.
I mean, he has a $40 million coaching business.
He's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. So, and he now says in his bio, his new bio says he has coached and trained more entrepreneurs as a living human in history. That's impressive. That's just
believe it.
Sexy.
I believe it. You should go back and listen to the podcast that I have published where I talked to Dan about who, not how. It is a fantastic conversation.
Oh my, will you put that episode number in the show notes too?
Yes, absolutely. I'll send you the link.
Oh, you're so resourceful. This is wonderful. So what I love about Dan is that he's such a big thinker. And I'm a Gemini in my astrology. I'm a Gemini. In my human design, if you have followed your own human design, I'm a manifesting generator. And in my Enneagram, I'm a 3. So I'm an air sign that is always looking to manifest and generate, co-create, like at the same time. I want to build the plane. I want to fly it all at the same time while we talk about it, and probably have a sex party to celebrate it. Like, that's who I am. Like, I'm just like all in the feels of all the things. And I thought I'd sprinkle that in there for my straight-laced people. I thought they'd enjoy that. And what I enjoy is that he gives us a way to put practicality to our imagination. And what I also love is he helps us pace out our big thinking. You know, he gives us ordered steps, and he gives us a way to test our alignment in this book. And so he says that 10X is actually more impactful than 2Xing. And for those of us that have been big thinkers that have failed or lived an illusion of failure that has been very harmful. One example for me is when I built a tech company and then sold it. The illusion that I lived under for 3 years was I failed it. I didn't sell it for the millions that I thought I would. We didn't create the client relationships that we deeply desired. And that because I didn't do what my partner wanted me to do, that I'd failed him. So now I failed the idea. I failed my partner, and then I must have failed myself. What I didn't recognize is that I was going for 10x of something that I'd never done, so that I could perceive a reality through myself that I didn't even know was possible. And now, as a reflection, who I am as a person is so much more of an aligned, harmonious, present, disciplined, consistent human. That was the gain that I got from that 10x pursuit. But I wanted the gain to be only in my bank account. I was bypassing so many other layers of consciousness that are now moving through me as a reflection of that. So in this book, he teaches you how to utilize that gain versus still perceiving it as a gap that you fell through. And because he teaches you how to alchemize that, it changes how you show up in real time. So that book releases in May of this year, which at the time that we're recording this is a few months away.
Yeah, I will definitely be buying that. I'll probably reach back out to Dan to see if he'd like to have a conversation again, seeing how I've spoken to him about the last 2 books. But I can't wait to read it. I'm jealous that you have an advanced copy. I think you can download it on Kindle right now, but I prefer to read hard copy books. It's my thing.
So you can actually have it right now.
Yes. Oh, are you going to send me your copy?
No, you can read it on Kindle.
I thought you were going to send me your copy with all your notes because, it's my birthday in a couple weeks.
Look, you can literally, if you can hear the pages, it is so tattered already. And what I love about it is it doesn't, the first story is remarkable about Michelangelo. And it is so, you probably can't see it because it's all marked up, just hearing how Michelangelo had to become himself. And what I love the most is that it was illegal to learn the way he was learning. So it reminds me a lot of what we see in the world. Oh my God, I'm not going to get into it, but just even if we look at Facebook, it was technically illegal. A lot of what Facebook has done in order to become itself. So it's really interesting as you start to see this historical context bobbing and weaving, that greatness often has this edge of shadow and darkness. And so it's just a phenomenal read, and I encourage everyone to pick it up.
Awesome. Okay, let's talk about the 4th book.
4th book, Ask and It Is Given. This is a wild card. And the reason that I love this book is that Esther and Jerry Hicks are the writers. However, they have this claim that they are channeling in an interdimensional message. And a lot of people would say that this is from an aspect of God or divine order or the cosmos. And so in this book, they say that we are co-creators, is what they call us. And they say that we have the power through the lens of imagination to imagine what we want and change our lives by imagining. It is absolutely no different than what Dan and Benjamin are writing in 10x is easier than 2x. It is no different. But because it is so seemingly impractical.
Right. It's woo.
It's woo. It's woo. And so they say, meditate. What do you visualize that you can have? One of the things that I recognize is that when I read Ask and It Is Given, I started to visualize. How I found out about that book was I was trying to buy a brand. I don't know if you remember a woman that was in our industry named Kimra Luna.
Yes.
Yes. I went to buy Kimra's brand from her. So I flew to New York, where she used to live, and I wanted to acquire her brand. What did I want to do with it? I wanted to take it over. And basically, I wanted to manage and oversee either her, or if she didn't want that, take what she'd established and put teachers in the place of it. And so we were in the negotiations of this. It did not happen. But I asked her, how did you become this? How did you come from this little bitty town where you grew up living in a trailer park? She grew up in one of the most racist areas of America, and she is Hispanic and Caucasian. And so she was incredibly marginalized as a human. But because she presented as white, a lot of people didn't know she lived this reality. So she had this really dank understanding of herself and got sick. And that's how she stumbled into this work, and got sick while she was pregnant and was on bed rest, and read Ask and It Is Given, and changed her entire life on bed
Wow.
rest through imagination. That's how I ended up picking up the very first book, and I changed my entire reality right after it.
So Kimra recommended that book to you.
She did.
That's funny. And you know, my sister-in-law gave me that book. Oh my goodness. It's got to be 15 years ago, and I have not read it. I need to read the book.
It will change your entire lens on life. It does not Windex squeaky, squeaky clean your lens. It is the distinction of, I don't even know what the highest D camera is out right now. It might be, I think 8D is out. I don't know. I could be wrong. But just imagine before we went into, or not DK, imagine before we went into 4K and the way the camera looked, and then 4K crystal clear. That is the distinction, in my opinion, when you read this book. And I think they do a very beautiful job at keeping you grounded as you read it. Oddly enough, in the movie The Secret, this was originally featured. It was withdrawn because of legalities. To me, this is why so many people that watch The Secret can't hold on to their miracles, because they become a haver through concept, which The Secret teaches, but it does not teach you how to hold your power, which is the way of integrity. And that's what Ask and It Is Given is about.
Awesome. Allyson, I love this. I love the variety of books that you chose. And I also love, I mean, you are known as the Profit Accelerator, and you didn't bring a money book really to the table. And so I love that someone who does what you do has chosen books that are not necessarily completely aligned with the work that you do, right? But you've given us so much to think about and work with, and I can see how the depth of what you brought to the table can actually magnify what people's intentions are, if that makes sense.
Well, you cannot hold on to money not living in integrity.
Right.
And you cannot hold on to money not being a human that is conscious of others with a wide perception on your worldview. You will be insta famous. You will be a one-hit wonder. But the humans that hold on to success are well-rounded and well-balanced and live a life of well-being. And that's what I've learned over the last 13 years as I've been curating and conjuring and co-creating my own success. And that's what I wanted to reflect with you.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate the books you've shared. I'm sure everyone listening will appreciate the books that you've shared. Definitely. I mean, I want to read all of them, but I'm definitely going to use 10x is easier than 2x in Thought Readers. So if you're listening to this and you haven't joined Thought Readers yet, join at thoughtreaders.com. It's free to join in 2023. And hopefully I will be able to get Dan to come back and have a conversation with us about that book, because it sounds like it's a really good one as well. Allyson, you have a way with words. It is one of the gifts that I really respect and admire the most about you. I mean, as you know, I invited you to speak at one of my events because I think that you're a gifted speaker, but not just a gifted speaker in terms of like speaking to an audience, but you have a gift with words. So I would like to ask you, do you have any parting thoughts for the audience who is listening to this conversation?
Absolutely. What I would say to every human listening is words I read from a book written by Kevin Hall, who is the protege, if you will, of the late Dr. Stephen Covey. And Stephen Covey wrote The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then Kevin Hall wrote a book called Aspire. And it's really said to be the new 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's brilliant. And in that book, he wrote a sentence that I've become popular for saying, but I always say it was Kevin's words. And he says, "You are an unrepeatable miracle." And for every human that's listening, when we are living the circumstances of our reality, meaning the reality is circling us, it's the circumference, it's all that we can see. Often when some of that reality is sprinkled with shadow, what is shadow? Things that we don't enjoy, things that we don't want, things that don't feel good. We can start to feel like we're just a robot, that we don't matter, that we don't count. And so I just want to say, in the midst of whatever is circling you, remember that you are an unrepeatable miracle. There has never been a you, and there will never be another you. Trust the distinction, the uniqueness that is you, and eat unicorn food. And what is unicorn food? Books. That's unicorn food.
Allyson, you are wonderful. Thank you so much
I
for
love
being
you.
here. Oh, I love you. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I want to have you back on the show again, because there's other stuff that I want to talk to you about, but this season is all about books. And I appreciate you sharing everything that you did with our listeners. So thank you so much for being here. If you're listening to the show, you can find all of Allyson's details in the show notes. You can find links to all the yummy books that we've talked about in the show notes. And I might even find a link on some of that mushroom stuff if you want to learn about that too. So thank you for listening, and we will see you again next week.